Welcome to Mindful Moments, like a protein bar for your brain.
It's amazing how something as simple as grabbing a burger or some pizza can connect you to this huge web of forces and systems.
Yeah.
Today we're going to try to trace the evolution of fast food in America from its, early beginnings all the way to how it impacts so much of the way we live and eat.
Right.
You've shared a ton of information with us, and what we really want to understand is what are the core principles that kind of drove this whole thing,
Yeah.
and what kind of world did it end up creating?
It's amazing to think about how it started out as just some little roadside stands,
Yeah.
and it's become this huge cultural and economic force. The story of fast food isn't just about getting food to people quickly. It's about all these big changes in American society,
Yeah.
our economy, and all the new technology we've adopted.
Absolutely. To really get to the root of it, we need to go back to Southern California. Think about what it was like there in the early 1900s. One of the big names from that era is Carl Karcher, who showed up in Anaheim. And it's interesting to think about how Anaheim itself was changing at that time. It was moving away from its German roots and becoming more Midwestern Protestant influenced.
Right. That shift in values probably set the stage for someone like Karcher to come in and really make a mark. He went from pushing a hot dog cart to creating the Carl's Jr. chain. Talk about the classic American dream, right?
Yeah.
And he wasn't alone. Around the same time, you had Matthew Burns, who started Insta Burger King.
Wow.
Dave Thomas founded Wendy's.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Monahan was building Domino's. And of course, Colonel Sanders was starting Kentucky Fried Chicken.
It's pretty amazing when you think about how different all those guys' backgrounds were. Each one brought something totally unique to this whole new industry.
As those early companies got going and started getting bigger, some really interesting connections started popping up between things you wouldn't normally think of as being related. Take Walt Disney and Ray Kroc, for example.
Yeah.
Of course, they were incredibly successful in entertainment and food, but they also both had this really strong belief in the power of technology and this generally optimistic, conservative view of American society.
You can definitely see that shared vision in early Disneyland. It wasn't just some amusement park.
Right.
It was like this showcase for all the big corporations. You had Monsanto there with their idea for the future of the home. Richfield Oil had their Autopia attraction. Kaiser Steel was showing off their stuff. And American Motors had that innovative Circarama thing.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see how corporate America was woven into the whole entertainment experience right from the start.
Another guy who crossed over between different worlds was Heinz Haber. He was Disney's science consultant. What's kind of crazy is that he used to do research for the Luftwaffe Institute for Aviation Medicine during World War II.
It's kind of wild how all these things are connected. Let's talk about Ronald McDonald for a second. He's such a big part of the McDonald's brand now. It's kind of weird to think that the first Ronald was actually played by Willard Scott, but they ended up replacing him because he didn't quite fit the image they were going for. It shows how important branding was becoming in the fast food world.
That focus on image was especially important when it came to marketing to kids.
Yeah.
Disney and McDonald's were really ahead of the curve when it came to figuring out how to influence young consumers.
They really understood how kids think and created these environments and characters that were just so appealing. Bright colors, playgrounds, toys, the clown. It was all about making kids feel good about these brands from a very early age.
As technology changed, so did their marketing. Early fast food websites started gathering information about the kids who visited them. That's part of what led to the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, which was designed to protect kids' information online.
Even with all the digital stuff going on today, TV is still a really big way to reach kids.
Absolutely.
It's kind of crazy to think about how many commercials they see every year and how much that shapes their preferences.
And those playgrounds you see at fast food places, those aren't just for parents to take a break. They're a marketing tool. When there are fewer and fewer public places for kids to play, these play areas become even more attractive.
Right.
And they link playtime directly with the brand. It's interesting how Disney and McDonald's worked together in the early days.
Yeah.
They had a deal where Disney characters were never shown eating McDonald's food.
Huh, really?
Yeah, it shows how careful they were about protecting their brand identities. But fast food companies didn't just stick to restaurants and TV. They found their way into schools, too,
Right.
through regular ads, through teaching materials that they sponsored,
Oh,
and even exclusive contracts for drinks.
right.
Like that Coke Dude memo from Colorado Springs School District 11 shows how far these partnerships could go.
And then there were all those incentive programs like Pizza Hut's Book It program.
Yeah, where you got free pizza for reading.
Right.
That really tied these brands to kids' education, even for preschoolers.
And when you think about it from a business perspective, focusing on kids makes a lot of sense.
Oh, definitely.
Childhood is when you're forming your tastes and habits.
Right.
So you could potentially create customers for life.
This is something that Mindful Moments and our podcasts, as an AI audiobook analysis YouTube channel, looks at sometimes these big cultural forces that start shaping us when we're so young. So we've talked about marketing and branding, but what about the people who actually work in this industry? Colorado Springs, with all its fast food places, is a good example of what that workforce looks like.
One thing that really stands out is how much the industry values efficiency and standardization. It's almost like an assembly line
Exactly.
with those super detailed training manuals, like that huge guide that McDonald's has, and
Right.
all the technology in the kitchens. It's all designed to make sure the food is consistent no matter who's making it.
Absolutely.
And the workers themselves come from all different backgrounds, teenagers working their first jobs, people trying to make some extra money,
Yeah.
recent immigrants, and even senior citizens. And a lot of times these jobs don't pay very well and people don't stay for very long.
And we can't forget about government programs like the Work Opportunity Tax Credit, which encourages companies to hire people from certain groups. These policies can have a big impact on the way the fast food industry hires people.
To keep things running smoothly,
Right.
there's often a big emphasis on building team spirit among the employees.
Yeah. But that doesn't always mean they support unions. We've seen cases where stores closed down because workers tried to unionize.
The franchise model is another really important part of how the fast food industry works. Ray Kroc's idea of having McDonald's own the land and lease it to franchisees was pretty brilliant.
Oh, yeah, it gave them a lot of control and stability.
But the relationship between the company and the franchisees isn't always perfect.
Right.
They can disagree about things like how close together the restaurants are.
Or how much the franchisees have to pay in royalties.
And then you've got chains like Subway that rely heavily on these development agents to sell franchises.
Right, and the government often helps out by providing loans through the Small Business Administration.
One franchisee who stands out is Dave Feemster, who owns a Little Caesars in Pueblo, Colorado. He's really involved in his community,
Oh, yeah.
supporting a youth hockey team and helping his employees pay for college.
It's really inspiring to see someone using their business to make a difference in their local area.
Now let's get into the behind-the-scenes part of the fast food industry.
Right, the food production.
The way our food is made has become so industrialized, and J.R. Simplot's work with French fries really changed the game.
For McDonald's and the whole industry.
Exactly. And because of what Simplot did, the French fry business is now controlled by just a few big companies, Simplot, Lamb Weston,
Right.
and McCain.
Yeah.
And it's also changed the way potatoes are grown, making farmers more reliant on huge farms and lots of chemicals.
Another interesting part of this is the role of flavorists.
Flavor.
Yeah, these are the scientists who work in labs to create all those artificial and natural flavors that fast food is known for.
Interesting.
Companies like IFF use really complicated processes to create the tastes that we've come to expect.
It's amazing how much science goes into all of this. This industrialization of food has really affected traditional farming and ranching.
It really has.
We've heard about ranchers like Hank in Colorado who are dealing with development pressure and low beef prices. And then you've got this speedway nearby that's like a symbol of how the American West is changing.
The growth of fast food created this huge demand for beef, which led to big changes in the meatpacking industry. McDonald's became the biggest beef buyer in the world.
Wow.
Massive feedlots like the ones run by Conagra in Greeley, Colorado, show how industrialized meat production has become.
Yeah, and then there's the IBP revolution, where Iowa beef packers really pushed for higher production, more efficiency, and cheaper labor.
And that led to the decline of traditional meatpacking centers like Chicago.
It also created some really tough working conditions in the slaughterhouses.
One of the downsides of all this focus on efficiency is food safety.
Right.
Those outbreaks of E. coli 0157-H7, like the one in Jack in the Box, really showed us how risky the food system can be.
And a lot of the time the contamination comes from the slaughterhouses or even the animal feed.
Like that practice of feeding livestock waste to cattle,
Yeah.
which they don't do anymore, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But it was all about saving money. And that really shows the problems with industrialized agriculture.
Meat inspection in the U.S. has a really long history. It started with Upton Sinclair's book, The Jungle, which led to the Meat Inspection Act of 1906.
Right. And then there was the streamlined inspection system for cattle, or
Mm.
SISC.
Uh-huh.
It's always been a battle between what the industry wants to do and what the regulations say. And when things go wrong, like that Hudson Foods recall where they didn't tell the public right away,
Yeah.
it just shows how complicated it is to make sure our food is safe.
There's technology like irradiation that could kill the bacteria in food, but people aren't always comfortable with that.
Yeah.
In response to all these food safety scares, a lot of fast food companies started doing more testing on the food they get from their suppliers.
Yeah.
Sometimes they even go beyond what the government requires. But studies are still finding a lot of bacteria in the ingredients that fast food restaurants use.
As fast food has spread around the world, there's been this idea of McWorld, where everyone's culture starts to look the same
Right.
because these brands are everywhere.
Right, like they're a symbol of Western influence.
It's pretty powerful to think about McDonald's opening up in East Germany after the Berlin Wall came down,
Right.
with Ronald McDonald replacing statues of Lenin.
But it wasn't all sunshine and roses.
Right.
Places like Plauen in East Germany faced a lot of economic challenges. And the fast food industry's focus on technology that reduces the need for workers has also had an impact.
And the trend towards bigger portion sizes and all those high-fat options has raised a lot of concerns about public health.
For sure. Some companies have tried to offer healthier choices.
But people still seem to want the less healthy stuff.
The McLibel trial in the UK really showed the conflict between what's good for business and what's good for people's health.
It's important to remember that not everyone has followed the same path as these big fast food chains.
Right.
You've got ranchers like Dale Lassiter in Colorado who are focused on sustainable practices.
Uh-huh.
Local diners like Conway's Red Top restaurant in Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
And regional chains like In-N-Out Burger that are known for treating their employees well.
So, considering everything we've learned about the fast food industry,
Right.
it seems like there are a lot of things we could do to change things. We could try to limit advertising to kids that promotes unhealthy food,
Yeah.
make it easier for fast food workers to form unions,
Uh-huh.
invest more in education instead of allowing ads in schools.
Right. And improve the food that's served in school cafeterias.
We could also have stricter rules for slaughterhouses,
Absolutely.
hold big agriculture companies accountable for their actions, and remember that we as consumers have power.
Yeah, we could make choices about where we spend our money.
The mad cow disease crisis in Europe showed us how a big food safety event can change government policies.
Right.
And the fact that some regional fast food companies are doing well while some of the big chains are struggling might mean that the industry is starting to change.
McDonald's buys so much beef that they could really make a difference when it comes to safety in slaughterhouses.
It's incredible to think about how our choices about something as basic as food can have such a huge impact.
It really is.
It affects our health,
Right.
our communities,
Yeah.
and even the whole world. So the next time you see a fast food sign, take a minute to think about all the things that have led to that moment.
If you enjoyed this discussion, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our future episodes.
Right, and share it with anyone else who might find it interesting. And if you want to learn even more, you can find a link to buy the book Fast Food Nation in the show notes.
Keep thinking critically about the systems that shape our lives.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
See you next time.
See ya.